Hey guys, welcome to another episode of All Bass Creations Effects, Tutorials, Demos, and Review. So I hope you guys been having a great day so far, and all that good stuff. So as you can see, we're working on just running through a few synth bass comparisons, right? So we have the C4 synth. Let's switch back to the pedal board view here. We have the C4 synth down here on the floor. We also have the Future Impact V4 VIP. Hold on, let me adjust this volume here. There we go. So we have the C4 synth. We have the Future Impact V4 VIP, and we have the Enzo X. Now these are three of the top synth pedals that are out right now. C4 synth has been out for a while. Future Impact's been out this iteration of this version of it about a year, and the Enzo X is a little bit under a year old. So, let's get some. I can't give you direct sound comparisons, but what I can give you is some things like just some back-to-back comparisons. So in order to make this run a little smoother, I'm gonna run through a few C4 synth settings. Then I'll run through a few Future Impact and then Enzo X, right? So, and by the way, all these sounds can be found in my preset packs on Patreon. So C4 synth, Future Impact, as well as the Enzo X. All have packs on my Patreon, patreon.com/allbasscreations. Let's go. So that's a few sounds from the C4 synth. All right, we're going to switch over to the Future Impact. So yeah, that's the future impact in a nutshell. But all right, let's skip over to the Enzo X. Mind you, you know, a lot of the mistakes you're hearing is not the pedal, is more so me. See what we got here. So that's pretty much just a rough shootout. I also have to get my hands on the MXR bass synth. You know, I'm still recovering with my hands, so I can't quite play it in where I normally would. So some of the mistakes you're hearing is not necessarily the pedal. It's more so me getting my left hand back together. That's why I'm wearing the glove, which also has fingertips underneath. So, you know, just my thoughts on these pedals in general. Mm. If you're going to go with, if you need just bass synth, the Future Impact is the pedal to go with. If you need bass synths and pads, and you know you don't have a really nice reverb pedal and all that stuff, get your Enzo X for sure. You know, and if you're on a super budget, get your C4 synth. It's going to get you great bass synths, but at the same time, you're going to get plenty of bottom. If you need it to sparkle more, you would turn the treble up on the EQ. If you need more bottom, you would turn the bass up on the EQ. And if you keep the resonance note low on the filters, it'll give you more bottom. If you want more like of that in your face filter sound, sweeping sound, you're going to want more resonance. So, you know, on each of these pedals, I would say they all have their drawbacks to a certain extent. But you know, in terms of the best bass synth pedal, I will go with the Future Impact V4 VIP. And as you can see, it takes up much less real estate than the Enzo X. The Enzo X is going to shine because it has that polyphony. You know, it's polyphonic, and you can play chords and pads, and you can just do some extraordinary sounds with the Enzo X. But the C4 synth for the price is really good, you know. And you can always upgrade later to a Future Impact if that's what you need. Future Impact's going to run you about $350. A C4 synth's going to run you about $264, somewhere around there. Enzo X is about $600. So, you know, it just depends on what you feel is valuable for you in a synth pedal. You know, things like polyphony aren't always necessary on bass. Like a Moog, if you get one of the vintage Moog synthesizers, it's not going to be polyphonic. So, you know, don't let that discourage you from getting things like the Future Impact or the C4 synth. But the Enzo X definitely has some extraordinary pads. We didn't go through them, but it also does bass synth very well. If you want some of the newer bass synth sounds, FM bass synth type sounds, I would go with the Enzo X. If you want that vintage Moog APR 2600 synth, you know, you want to get all the old Stevie Wonder, you know, Michael Jackson, all the 80s synths, you know, that's the Future Impact for sure, 100%. So, you know, and like I said, all of them track well. You have to EQ your bass differently. For the C4 synth, it's going to be boosting the high mids, cutting the lows. For the Future Impact V4 VIP, it's going to be boosting your high mids and keeping your lows and your highs flat. While the Enzo X is going to be boosting your low mids, cutting your lows, and cutting your highs a little bit. So those three things will definitely keeping those three EQ in mind when you're working with these three different pedals, it helps it track better. Now, the other thing with the C4 synth, I have that on the faster tracking. The Future Impact V4 VIP, you need to set that note level on, the note off level as well. I have mine set to the note off is 40 and the note on is around anywhere from 35 to 40 usually. Enzo X, you need to pay attention to the note persist. That's going to make a huge difference in the tracking because most of the patches are going to come on infinity, which is crazy. But if you turn it down to under 1 second, usually it can track a lot better. So, you know, I find that each of these pedals is definitely worth checking out. Make sure you hit that like button for me. Make sure you subscribe. You know, I really don't have anything bad to say about any of these pedals per se. You know, typically they track decently. Now, I would say the Future Impact tracks better than the C4 synth. The Enzo X and the Future Impact tracking is about the same, but they're a little bit better than the C4 synth, which for the price you would expect, and for them being newer pedals you would also expect. So I would say, you know, if whichever one you feel like checking out, you know, definitely do it. All of them are worth it, and as you can see, I have all three of them, and I use them all for different things, you know, different sounds. None of them sound the same, even though all of them are modeled after vintage analog synths, you know. But you know, that's what kind of makes it worth having all three. They don't sound the same. They all sound different, completely different. Not only that, the Enzo X has the best sound quality to me, you know, just in terms of, I don't know if it's because of the reverb algorithms or whatever they did in here. The Enzo X seems like it has the best sound quality, but the Future Impact V4 VIP definitely has the best bass sounds, and it cuts in a mix. Like I've used that live at church and everything, and it cuts. So does the Enzo X. The Enzo X cuts definitely, certain FM synth sounds, but sometimes the C4 synth doesn't always come through the mix the way I want it to, all the time. So it really just depends on what your needs are and what your budget is. The C4 synth will get you through a lot. Trust me, get you to a ton of different sounds. But the Future Impact V4 VIP is definitely the best one in terms of bass synth. And the Enzo X is the next one because it can do not only just the bass synth stuff, it can also do the pad stuff and the lead stuff better than the other pedals. So make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe before you get out of here. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. I will catch you guys next time. This has been another episode of All Bass Creations, effects, tutorials, demos, and review.